Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. You've probably seen me in The Secret. Well, we're going to expand on the message from The Secret. We're going to go beyond that. You know, in The Secret, we talked about the law of attraction. There's been 300 million people impacted with that message. But I want to take you a little further. There's 11 lost laws. These 11 laws that go along with the law of attraction, I think you're going to find rather interesting. And I want to share a few thoughts with you that lead up to this. And I want you to prepare for these lessons as they come out. But you know, the author said that we should proceed to use our thinking faculty and take care that it does not use you. Well, I think that's true. Do you know, most people are controlled by what's going on outside. They're not using their mental faculties to really control their life. The author says, master your mind and guide it intelligently. Well, you know, if you look at the results of most people, that's not happening. People are not mastering their mind. They're not using it. They're not controlling their own life. As you get involved in these laws, each one of them brings a specific message. And as you bring your mind in harmony with these laws, your whole life is going to change. Let me continue here. He said, learn to think as you ought to think. Give your mental life to the matters that are absolutely essential to your welfare. Have you ever wondered why 1% of our population earns 96% of all the money that's being earned? You know, things are so totally out of balance that when you hear those statistics for the first time, you think they can't possibly be true, but they are. And you know, Huxley was right. He said there's only one corner of the universe that we can change, and that's our own self. Now, this author said, the balance of all thought to themes of beauty, truth, and progress. In other words, live with the ideal, but do not neglect the practical. He said, aim to adjust the two and strive to be on the outside of what you idealize on the inside. Your thoughts make you, and your ideals, principles, or ruling desires will determine your destiny. Now, I have studied this material since 1961. October 1961 is when I really began to study this. So naturally, I've watched a lot of things change. I've watched things change in the world. I've watched the attitude of people shift. And it shifts primarily because we're starting to understand ourselves better. We have here, learn to use your powers unless you wish to be used by them. Make a daily effort to use the knowledge that you have gained. Try to improve upon all of your opinions. Endeavor to obtain a truer and a larger conception of each of your personal views. Now, I have found, as we start to understand this, and as we start to dig into these laws, that everything in our life starts to shift. Do you know what the laws are? Think about it for a moment. Did you really understand the law of attraction before you saw The Secret? Do you know, a lot of people saw The Secret and they thought that the law of attraction just came into being. That's like hearing about the law of gravity and think we just invented it yesterday. The law of attraction's always been here. It's based on another great law, the law of vibration. Well, you're going to find, as we get into these 7 laws, I'm going to give you a short overview on each one of them. And if you take the videos that you're going to get, and then take each one of them and watch one every day for a week. Now, it may take you a few weeks to go through this, but let's face it, you've gone all your life without understanding, and another few weeks dedicated to understanding it is going to make a huge difference. This is a phenomenal program that you're a part of. I am so pleased that I have the opportunity to dig into these laws in some depth and share them with you. You know, the author points out that man's problems are mental in nature. They have no existence outside of themselves. And it has been discovered that nearly all will yield up their solutions when subjected to a broad and exact analysis. You can acquire the ability by studying the law of life. You know, I mentioned on The Secret where Dr. Werner von Braun said that the natural laws of this universe are so precise that we don't have any difficulty sending people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. Now, isn't it strange that you would go all through life and never really understand these laws, and yet these laws are impacting every aspect of your life, from your relationships to the health of your body, to your business, to your personal skills. Everything is based on law. When we violate the law, we lose. When we live in harmony with the law, we start to win. Now, he said you can acquire the ability by studying the law of life and the modes of expression. Then, by constant effort, use your thinking faculty in constructive ways as you work with these laws. Now, have a good and sound reason for all the views you hold. Isn't that an interesting concept? Think of that for a moment. You'll hear people say, well, I believe that. In fact, you hear yourself saying it. Why do you believe it? Have you ever really analyzed your own belief patterns? Why do you believe these things? As you try to find why you hold these views, many of your old-time views are going to fall to pieces. Form a clear and definite idea regarding your convictions as to why as you do, and to why as you think. You see, most people never really ask themselves, why do I believe that? Do you know almost all your beliefs you've inherited? That's true. Dates way back into your genetic nature. From the moment of conception, your ancestors are built right into the genes. And we've got a lot of ideas locked up in our mind that violate the laws of this universe, and that's what's causing our problem. See, it's no accident that a very small select group of people live really meaningful lives, and so many others are struggling all the way through their life. Well, you're going to find as you get involved in this program, and I would encourage you to really take this serious. This is serious work. It's helped me earn millions of dollars, build a company that operates all over the world, make really meaningful friends on every continent. If it's done that for me, what can it do for you? Now keep in mind, when I started to study this, I only had about 2 months high school. I had no business experience, and my whole life changed like that. There's so much good stuff here. This author says clear and exact thinking is a very great necessity. It is, in fact, a sure means to advancement on the mental as well as the spiritual plane. Now, I'm going to leave you with something here that I think is very important. A line of distinction, however, should be drawn between mere surface thought, that is, ordinary, trivial, and commonplace thinking, and real thought, which is associated with the understanding of these laws, with the understanding of truth. The latter is deep thinking, which arouses dormant powers, quickens the perception, and leads to the enlargement of life on all planes. You see, most people's thinking takes them to last night's ball game, maybe the weather, or who won the election. What we're talking about is deep, penetrating thought. Really dig into our mind. Let's figure out how we can take quantum leaps, just jumps ahead, rather than small, incremental changes. Let's find out how we can turn our annual income to a monthly income like that, because you can do it. If I do it, you can do it. And I'm going to show you how I did it. And I'm going to take you into each one of the other 11 laws. And I will, in fact, elaborate on the law of attraction, because when you really understand that law, everything in your life is going to start to shift. See, the truth, the real basic truth, is everything that comes into our life, we've attracted. We're literally magnetized to it. Do you know that your brain is an electronic switching station? It controls the vibratory rate of this massive energy that we call our body. I'm not my body, I'm not my brain, you're not your body, you're not your brain, but you do have a brain. We have a marvelous mind, and we can control the vibration we're in, and when we do, we start to control what comes into our life. You're going to love these laws, and you're going to want to share them, and you should share them. Givers gain. I want you to get them. I want you to study them. Get involved in this program, and then set aside a time to really study it. Don't treat this as just any recorded program. This is very special. Since October 1961, I have been absolutely obsessed with studying one subject: why you do what you do and why you don't do many of the things you want to do. I want you to think of what you really want to do. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Do you know, if you go to my website, I tell you on there, if you tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it. And I can. But you've got to decide what you want. And then you want to get into these lessons. 11 laws. It's phenomenal. And the 12th, I'm going to elaborate on it for you. Make sure you get involved. Set aside the time, and you're going to love it. The videos that you're going to receive here will change your life. Along with the rest of the program, life will never be the same again. This is Bob Proctor, and thank you. And I look forward to meeting you in a seminar sometime in the very near future. Mind is the master power that molds and makes. And man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought and shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. We think in secret and it comes to pass. Our environment is but our looking glass. Do you know James Allen wrote those words a little over 100 years ago? I began to study them close to 50 years ago. Every year they mean a little more to me. I want to talk to you here about the law of thinking. Thinking is a powerful force. It's been said that it's the most powerful force we're capable of. Do you know Archibald MacLeish, a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, had a character stand up in a play one time called The Secret of Freedom. And the character says, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you'll find in a pig or a horse. Do you know, it sounds like a funny line, but it's true. Everything else you will find in a pig or a horse. You see, the mind, it's the most powerful force in the world. And thinking is a very, very powerful form of energy. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. Now, as we go into the laws of thinking, I want to refer to a few points from Raymond Halliwell. He said, to the average person, life is an enigma, a deep mystery, a complex and incomprehensible problem, or appears so. But it's very simple if one holds the key. You see, mystery is just another name for ignorance. All things are mysterious when they're not understood. But when we understand life, it no longer appears mysterious. Do you know, until I was 26, life was a real mystery to me. It was an incomprehensible problem. And of course, I had many problems. But then I began to study, and I began to study this information. And you know, it took me a while, but as I started to adopt the concepts and adapt my mind to them, my life started to change. My problems started to sort of disappear. I started earning a lot more money. I was living in a healthy body, very rarely ever being ill. I noticed that I started to attract different people into my life, more interesting people. You see, the truth was, I was just becoming a more interesting person. A person's interesting because they're interested. And you see, as we start thinking powerful thoughts, everything starts to happen. Now let me share something that Raymond Halliwell said. He said, we are progressive beings, you and I, a creature of constant growth, before whom lies an illimitable ocean of progress to be navigated and conquered only by development and culture of our inherent powers. The progress of the individual is largely determined by what? What do you think it is? Now, let me share that again. The progress of the individual is largely determined by, it's a good question, isn't it? It's by his ruling mental state. Because the mind is the basic factor in governing power in the entire life. My life and your life, you see. Attention should be given to the predominant mental state, for it will regulate the action and direction of all one's forces, faculties, and powers, the sum total of which will inevitably determine many particular experiences and the personal fate. You see, the ruling state is like the CPU. You're familiar with your computer. Well, that's what the ruling state of the computer is. You see? The ruling state of mind is made up of various mental attitudes, which the individual adopts towards things, events, and life in general. If the attitudes are broad in mind, optimistic in tone, and true of life, his predominant mental state will correspond and exhibit a highly constructive and progressive tendency. As almost all the forces of the personality function through the conscious mind in one way or another, and as the daily mental and physical acts are largely controlled by the conscious mind, it's obvious that the leading mental state must determine the direction which the powers of the individual must proceed. You see, the ruling mental state is everything. I know that you and I have been trained to believe that we've got to change what's going on out there. We've got to fix this and fix that. And we have literally been programmed to live through our senses, to go by what we hear, see, smell, taste, or touch. But there's been little thought given to our higher faculties: perception, the will, intuition, memory, reason, imagination. And see, they're all our inner faculties, and that's where it really happens. This is where it all begins, inside. You don't have to worry about changing what's going on out there. I don't care if it's your bank account or the health of your body. You're going to find the x-rays will show a different you. The bank account will show a different balance. And everything in life will begin to change as you take over the power of thought. Thought is a very, very powerful force. Let me share something that Raymond Hollywell says on thought. He says thought is a subtle element. Although it is invisible to the physical sight, it is an actual force of substance, as real as electricity, light, heat, water, or even stone. We are surrounded by a vast ocean of thought through which our thoughts pass like currents of electricity, or tiny streaks of light, or musical waves. You can flash your thoughts from pole to pole, completely around the world, many times in less than a single second. Now think of what he's saying. You can flash your thoughts right around the globe several times in less than a single second. Scientists tell us that thought is compared with the speed of light. They tell us our thoughts travel at the rate of 186,000 miles per second. We have a hard time comprehending that. He goes on to point out that our thought travels 930,000 times faster than the sound of our voice. No other force or power in the universe yet known is as great or as quick. It is a proven fact scientifically that the mind is a battery force, the greatest of any known element. You see, the thinker is like the computer processor. When it's finely tuned, it really works fast. You can think, and what you think ultimately produces the results in your life. See, there's laws to thought. I'm going to tell you something that I've learned beyond a shadow of a doubt. The thoughts that you think and turn over to your emotional mind instantly, by law, control the vibratory rate of your body. Your body is a massive magnetic energy. It truly is. If you put your body in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, you just see it as a glistening, radiating, gleaming form. As a matter of fact, if you could hear it, it would be like a symphonic concert being played. Oh, I know, to the eye it just looks like a thing, but it's not a thing. The body itself is one of the most magnificent instruments on the planet, and you live in one. And it's how you think that is going to dictate what this body is going to do. We know that our actions produce our results. If we want to change our results, we've got to change our actions. However, if you don't go to the thought, the actions are never, the actions may change temporarily. But believe me, the thoughts that you think repeatedly become fixed in your subconscious mind. And those thoughts are going to determine what happens in your life. Make no mistake about it. Now, play with this for a moment. We hear a lot about positive and negative attitudes or positive and negative thinking. Well, some think that we deal with two forces. That is, we attract the good and we must do away with the bad. You've heard that many times. We attract the good, we must do away with the bad. Well, that is not true. For example, if we are cold, we do not work with cold and heat alike in order to get warm. This is very simple processing that we're going through here, mental processing. We build a fire and we gather around the fire and we enjoy the heat that is extended from it and we become warm. As we build warmth, the cold disappears, for the cold is the absence of the heat. Just like dark is absence of the light. Let there be light. You see? To be warm, we give our whole thought to those things which tend to create warmth. We ignore the cold in thinking of heat and bring forth heat. Prosperity and poverty are not two things. They are merely two sides of one thing, the same thing. There is but one power, rightly or wrongly used. We cannot think of plenty and then worry about the unfavorable conditions that may seem apparent. If you want to change the results in your life, and I'm just working on the premise that you do, or you wouldn't even be watching this film right now, give your thought to your mind. Give serious thought to this series of overviews that I'm doing on the laws that you're studying. You see, Huxley was right. He said the only corner of the universe that we can be certain of improving, it's our own self. That's all. You know, all those things we want to change outside are all a reflection of what's going on inside. Well, that may be a big idea for you right now, but as you study this for a week, a month, a year, and then come back and hear me say that, it's going to sound like a totally different statement. You choose your thoughts, and your thoughts create your life. You truly do become what you think about. There is a law of thinking. Make no mistake about it. This is Bob Proctor, and thank you. Hello there. How would your life change if you woke up this morning and find that someone had deposited $9 million in your bank account? How would that affect you? How would your mind shift if next week, just like that, you attracted 1,000 new clients into your business? 1,000. What would your life be like if, bang, just like that, you realized you had the energy of a 20-year-old? How would your mind shift if Mensa recognized you as the smartest person on the planet? They're good questions, aren't they? Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot more than 9 million just waiting there to come into your life. There's an infinite supply. And the 1,000 clients, there's tens of thousands of people out there just waiting for someone to come and serve them. And the 20-year-old energy, do you know all the energy there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. No one gets energy. Everyone releases energy, and desire is the triggering mechanism that releases energy. And as far as being the smartest, hey, listen, the smartest sometimes are not the most effective. Being smart isn't the answer. Being effective is the answer. Did you know that all the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time? I'm Bob Proctor, and I want to talk to you about the law of supply as we're going through and giving you an overview in this video series of the laws, those 11 lost laws. Supply is one of them. Do you know, Halliwell said that man's never satisfied, never satisfied. The fact is deplored by many, but God did not intend man to be forever satisfied. You see, dissatisfaction is actually a creative state. That's right. There's a lot of people that mix up satisfaction and happiness. You can be very happy and very dissatisfied. I am never satisfied with the results that we get in our company, any of the companies that we have. I'm happy with them, but never satisfied. See, dissatisfaction is a creative state. Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that led to the incandescent light. Edison just got sick and tired of dealing with a wax candle or a kerosene lamp. You see? Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that led the Wright brothers to introduce us to a brand new kingdom. Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that took Edward Hillary right to the top of the world. It was dissatisfaction that caused John Kennedy to make a statement that we would be on the moon in this decade. He said that way back in the 60s. Now, I hope you are dissatisfied. And if you're not, well, I'm going to say a quiet prayer for you. See, we believe, therefore, that it is right and good for people to seek to gratify all pure desires and ambitions. Now, I know there's a lot of people that don't agree with that, but they don't agree with a lot of things. But you're going to find out the small select group of people that really understand these laws, understand there is an infinite source of supply. Everything comes from one infinite source. Everything's made from the same. The difficulty with some is that they can more easily look to the creature as the source of their substance than to the Creator. Just beyond the average person's grasp. We don't really believe that God is the support source of our substance. Now, when we start to believe it, I think it starts to happen. Let me share something with you that I read a long time ago. Dr. Wernher von Braun was one of the greatest scientists that ever lived. He's considered by many as the father of the space program. Think about this for a moment. He said after studying this now before I mention this, let me also mention that for a long time science and religion were antagonistic. They just could not come together. But they since have come together. Now, von Braun said that after years of studying the spectacular mysteries of the cosmos, he was led into a firm belief in the existence of God. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into a religious dissertation. I am just mentioning my own personal belief after studying these laws for very close to 50 years. I see the law as the uniform and orderly method of the omnipotent God. A law is something that happens every time with every person everywhere. And everyone that has accomplished anything will be quick to tell you this. See, as we look back, everybody loves a dead genius. They really do. But you know, all of these great geniuses from history that we look at, they weren't considered geniuses when they were alive. The Wright brothers were considered real heretics. They really were. See, the people that made it happen, they were out of the box. They weren't ordinary thinkers. But they understood that there was this governing process called the law. You see, before we're able to believe in abundance of good, we've got to then see and enjoy that everything comes from one infinite source of supply. And when we really understand that, everything is going to change direction for us. Nothing can be made from something any more than something can be made from nothing. But where does water come from? Let's give it some thought. If we went outside on a nice clear day and stood there with a cup, just stood there, and we were patient, and we stayed there long enough, do you know that that cup would fill with water? Yeah. You would see in the no thing, you would see a cloud formation. And the cloud would become very heavy and very dark, and before long, water would fall out of it. Now, if we stayed there with that cup, where would the water go to? It'd go right back to where it came from. See, as above, so below. As below, so above. I want you to think about that. Nothing is created or destroyed. Everything's in a constant evolution of change. We literally live in an ocean of motion. You and I have the godlike ability to create images in our mind. And as we create the images in our mind, we control the vibration that we're in, and that vibration sets up an attractive force. In the seminars that I conduct, I hold up a little acorn sometimes that comes from a giant oak tree. But the little acorn is nothing but a mass of energy in a high speed of vibration. It's just a little physical nut. Now, if I kept that acorn in my pocket, that acorn would disintegrate because it's governed by a very, very basic law, create or disintegrate. And it's not in an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment. But let's suppose I take and I plant that acorn in the earth. Do you know that there's particles of earth that are in harmonious vibration with that little mass of energy that we call an acorn? See, if you looked at the acorn through a microscope, it's not solid, it's just a little mass of energy that's dancing. Let me digress for a moment. Let's suppose I took 2 drops of water on a glass top table and I pushed them together until they touched. Then I'd have 1 drop, wouldn't I? I'd have a bigger drop. Let's suppose I put another drop and I pushed it together. What do you think the odds are of me separating that one little drop, the one little puddle, I guess I could say, back into the same 3 little mass of molecules, those same 3 dots? You know it's not going to happen. You know, what God hath joined together gives it new meaning, doesn't it? Well, you see, there's particles of energy that's jammed right up against the acorn in the earth that don't vibrate in harmony with the acorn. But there's particles of energy that do vibrate in harmony with the acorn, and the acorn's like a magnetic force, and if you could see it with the naked eye, you would see little particles of energy marching just like obedient soldiers right towards the acorn. And as they touch the acorn like that, like the 2 drops of water, they become one with the acorn. And this process is continuous. It's continuous. And the only particles of energy that the acorn can attract are the particles that vibrate in harmony with it. They're on a frequency. And the acorn keeps attracting and keeps expanding. And the shoots come out of the bottom, and then it breaks through the earth, and it attracts from the atmosphere as well as from the earth. And before long, you'll see a giant oak tree. All by attraction. It's all energy moving. There's one source of supply, just one. Well, do you know that you are attracting to you right now from an infinite source? Now, if you're holding thoughts of lack and limitation, that's what you're going to attract. The universe, by law, can only give you what you put in the order for. What are you putting in the order for? We talked in a previous video about thinking. There's a law of thinking.